Hello, this is Dr. Lauer. This is Math 117, the Test 1 review answers. So the first question says to state the formulas. I won't ask you to state them on the test, but you have to know them in order to use them. You may not use these on a cheat sheet during the test, so make sure you have these memorized. So the first formula says the formulas for line, slope of a line, circular formula. So the formulas for line are y equals mx plus b. That's the one people typically know. Y equals b, that's a horizontal line. X equals a, that's vertical. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And ax plus by equals c. And oftentimes you see capital letters with those. So the slope formula is m is equal to the rise over run, which is the same as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We want the circle formula, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The distance formula is similar to this with the square root. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And then the expansions, we talked about these recently. Forgot the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula says if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 for a not equal to 0, then x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A lot of people forget this minus, the first one, the minus. So this will give you two answers. Sometimes they're repeated, but you'll end up with two answers here. And then you need the expansions for a plus h cubed and a plus h squared. So a plus h squared is a squared plus 2ah plus h squared, and a plus h cubed is a cubed plus 3a squared h plus 3ah squared plus h cubed. You should be able to write them just like I did. All it is a formula. So for the next part, we need to find the values of x that satisfies the inequality. So solving an inequality, that means that we need first to write the inequality. So we have, for part 2a, 2 is less than or equal to x plus 12 is less than or equal to 37. To solve an inequality, that means I want to get the x by itself. So I'll subtract 12 from all three sides. I get negative 10 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to, that looks like 25. Now on a number line, this is just negative 10 to 25. These are closed circles because there's an equals. And we also want to state the interval notation. Closed circles means brackets, negative 10 to 25. For part B, we have 3 times 9, which gives me 27 minus 3x is greater than or equal to 1.25 plus 1.5x. So solving this one for x, I can see I have x on both sides, so I want to maybe subtract the x from both sides. And that means I want to subtract the 27 from both sides. Greater than, I haven't divided by a negative, so I don't have to change that. So negative 3 minus 1.5 gives me negative 4.5x. And then we have negative 27 plus 1.25 gives me a negative, I think that's 25.75. Pick up your calculator if you need to. And then we'll divide both sides by negative 4.5. Now, because I divided by a negative, I do have to reverse the inequality. So I should have a less than or equal to now. So x is less than or equal to negative 25.75 divided by negative 4.5. I'm picking up my calculator. I could use Desmos. I get negative 25.75 divided by negative 4.5. And that gives me 5.7222, but I really want this as an exact number. Fraction gives me 103/18. Now you could put the approximation there, but remember that I want 3 decimal places. 5.722. So on a number line, closed circle because it's less than or equal to, this is 5.722 or 103/18, either one, and I'll want to shade back behind. So all the numbers back here are numbers that if I put them in the original equation would give me a true statement. So for instance, 0 is back here, so if I put 27 minus 0 in the original, and that gives me 27 is greater than 1.25 plus 0. So that's a true statement. So I'm feeling pretty good about this being my correct answer. For problem number 3, I need to factor first. So this is a difference of squares that factors as x minus 3 times x plus 3. Since it's multiplication, I'm just going to keep writing across. This will be x minus 2, x plus 2, or x plus 2, x minus 2. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. This one has a 3 that comes out. And this one factors as x and x. Factors of 6, 2 or 3 or 1 or 6 that subtract to be 1, that would be 2 or 3. Since it's subtraction, the signs are different. The largest sign is negative, so the 3 will be negative and the other one will be positive. So now I'm able to reduce these, so I can see that the numerator and the denominator share an x minus 3. They share an x plus 2 and an x minus 2. So when I reduce this down, I end up with an answer of x plus 3 over 3. Number 4, I want to solve using the quadratic. 3x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0, which means that I have 3 is a, negative 4 is b, and 1 is c. So this gives me x is equal to minus b, that's 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's negative 4 squared gives me 16, minus 4ac, which is 4 times 3 times 1, all over 2a. 2a would be 6. So that gives me 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 12 is 4 over 6. And that is 4 plus or minus 2 over 6, which gives me 4 plus 2 is 6 over 6. 4 minus 2 is 2 over 6, which reduces to 1 and 1/3. It's a quadratic formula. For problem number 5, you can do this either on Desmos or on a graphing calculator. The Desmos is slightly easier because you can see what you're doing a little bit better. You can stretch out between the Desmos like this. So if you need more room to see what you're doing. I want to first put the restriction, the x is less than or equal to negative 2. So I need a brace, x is less than or equal to negative 2, colon, and then the actual graphing part, the negative 3. That gives me the graph here. X is equal to 3. The next part is a parabola, 5 minus x squared. It's this part of the graph. Since it has less than on both of these, I'll need open circles there. And then the next part is 2x minus 3 is a line. Looks like this. It's going to have a closed circle because it's greater than or equal to 1. So you basically are going to put this into a calculator, a graphing calculator. There are keystrokes for this for the Texas Instrument calculator on previous videos. So if you prefer to use that, then by all means use those keystrokes. So for our purposes, we need to draw the graph. So for part number 5, for problem number 5, we first need to write down what we put in Desmos, and I require that you write this, so make sure you write it. I need the restriction first, x is less than or equal to negative 2, colon, x, this is just negative 3, comma, then the next piece. Negative 2 is less than x is less than 1. The graphing calculator, the TI graphing calculator will require an and in here, so make sure that you're studying that if you prefer to use that calculator. Colon, And then we have 5 minus x squared, comma. The next piece is x is greater than or equal to 1, and this is for the graph 2x minus 3. So we end up with a graph that looks like this. We have a 1 that's interesting and a negative 2 that's interesting. We have a negative 3. This is a negative 3 here. And negative 2, it's got a closed circle, and it was a horizontal line back here. Then the parabola started with an open circle and went up to 5 and came back down a little bit to a closed circle. So this is 5. I just needed enough tick marks that I can see kind of what you were looking at. And then here, this one starts at 1, and this should be a closed circle and goes up, and that one's an open circle. So looking back at the Desmos graph, we can see we have the correct graph on our paper. We have a horizontal line, we have part of a parabola, and this should have come over to 2 here. So this should have been here with an open circle. So I missed that just a little bit, and that's how easy it is to make the mistake. I'll leave it in the video so that you can see it's fairly easy to make mistakes, so just be careful. For our next problem, we're going to find the equation in line with the given description. So we have 4 different lines here. We're going to use the equations of lines that we've already talked about. So let's go back to those for a second. We have 5 equations of lines. Y equals mx plus b can only be used if you have a slope and an intercept. You can always find the intercept, but it's not necessary to do it if you've already got a point. Y equals b is a horizontal, and x equals a is vertical. This one is the one that's going to be the most useful throughout the semester. Please do not simplify if you're using this formula. If I don't ask for y equals mx plus b, expect this formula to be used. So be sure you're using that formula. For 6a, we have a slope of negative 2/3 and a y-intercept. So we can use y equals mx plus b. So y is equal to m, which is negative 2/3, plus b, which is, and we need an x, negative 2/3 x plus b, which is 7. And we're done. Part B says we want a horizontal line. Well, horizontal is y is equal to something, and it needs to go through the point, so y has to be equal to negative 3. Part C says we want a vertical line passing through 8, negative 5. Well, vertical is x is equal to something. Hoi bucks, right? Hoi bucks. Horizontal is y, vertical is x. X is equal to 8 in this case. And for part D, we have the slope of negative 2, and it passes through the point. So that's our last form. Y minus 2, y minus y1 is equal to the slope, which is negative 2, x minus a negative 3, which is x plus 3. I'm expecting this form of the line. Please give this form of the line to me. Do not solve for the y-intercept. For number 7, we want to find the slope of the line. So when we're given 2 points, so we need the equation, well, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is a negative 7 minus y1 is 5, x2 is 2, and x1 is a negative 2, so I'll put a plus 2 in here. So we end up with negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12 over 4, which reduces to be negative 3. Please reduce when you can. Number 8 says find the distance between the points. So we need the formula. Distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1. So x2 is 1.2 minus x1 is minus a negative 2, which would be plus 2 squared, plus y2 is 3.7 minus 5 squared. And you can go to your calculator and do this now. So let's do that. So you can put the thing in piecewise, piecemeal, or you can actually put it the whole thing straight across. So I do second square root. You could also do this in Desmos. Parentheses 1.2 plus 2, close parentheses squared, plus parentheses 3.7 minus 5, close parentheses squared, hit enter, and I need 3 decimal points if you're going to give me decimal places here. So this would give me 3.454. So we go to the third decimal place, 1, 2, 3. The third one is a 3, but the next one is a 9, so that means the 3 is going up. 5 or more, the number goes up. Number 9, we're asked for the equation of the circle with a center, so that's x minus plus y minus, there's a form we're filling in here, is equal to r squared. So here I've got x minus 2, so I've got the center as 2, 3. Y minus the negative 3 is going to be plus 3, is equal to 4 squared, which is 16. Number 10 is doing the opposite. We're given an equation of a circle, and we want to know the center and the radius. So the center for the circle here is a point, which is 5, 3. The negatives are already part of the formula, and the radius is the square root of 49, which is 7. For number 11, we have f of x is equal, and we want to find the values. So I could put this in my graphing calculator. I'm going to do this one in Desmos so that we can see it done in Desmos. So I need f of x equals, and I have negative 2x squared minus 3x plus 7. So I've got a parabola, negative 2x squared minus 3x plus 7. And I check it, make sure it's right. The only one I can do in Desmos is this first one, f of negative 4. So I'm going to put f of negative 4, and I get the answer negative 13. So going back over to my paper, part A is negative 13. So for part B, I just need f of w, and that's equal to negative 2w squared minus 3w plus 7. This does not say to simplify, so for part C, I'm just putting the a plus 2 in. So I need f of a plus 2 is equal to negative 2 times a plus 2 squared minus 3 times a plus 2 plus 7. Don't overwork the problem. If I haven't asked you to simplify, please do not simplify. In fact, for this problem, if you do simplify, I will take off points because I'll assume you put it in somewhere else, into some other grapher. For number 12, we need to sketch a graph and state the domain and range of each. Y equals 3 is a horizontal line. So we just draw a horizontal line. The domain is all reals, and the range is y is equal to 3. We're given the range. So down here we already know the domain is x equals negative 2, because we're given the x. And the range on a vertical line should be all reals. You could write negative infinity to infinity there if you want to, or you can write this double-edged r, double vertical line r there. So x equals negative 2 will be the graph. It goes like that. X squared minus 7 is a parabola. It opens up. It's down at negative 7. I don't need to write very much. You can put these into a graphing calculator, or you can just graph them like it says. This says it's a parabola shifted down 7. So the domain is all reals, but the range is from negative 7 to infinity. Negative 7 is included, infinity is not. The line that we have here is y is equal to negative 3 off x plus 3. That means I've got a y-intercept of 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going down 3 over 2 for the slope. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 for the slope. So the next point would be there. Now a line that isn't horizontal and vertical has the domain and range as all reals for both. For the next one, I want to put this one into the calculator, so you can use your graphing calculator or Desmos. Since I've already got one here, I might want to save this one because I want to look at it again later during the test. So I can open up a new Desmos calculator here, desmos.com, or I could go back and refresh this one. So you could hit the refresh on the page and refresh the calculator. So I want to put in y is equal to the square root of 7 minus x plus 3. Y equals square root. And you can either get that with the buttons at the bottom of the page here, or you can remember that it's SQRT. 7 minus x And then I need to go out to the square root plus 3. So make sure you look like your function looks exactly like the one that's on the test. Compare them really closely. So I'm going to have a closed circle here because x can be 7. Square root of 0 is 0. So I'm going to have a closed circle and I'm going to have a swish like this on my graph. So it'll be up 3 and over 7. So going back to my paper, I'll graph this up 3 over 7, and I'll just put 7 like this. So I want a point right here and then a swish. That's all I'm expecting for the graph. I don't want an artistic rendition. I just want a real quick graph. So you should give me the important parts. Where that vertex right there is of this half parabola, the square root graph, is important. So the domain is going to be all the x's that I use, and I used all the x's in here. These are the x's I used. So that's from negative infinity to 7. Bracket on 7, negative infinity to 7. And then the range is going to be, I didn't use any of the y's here at all. The first one I used is 3, and I used the rest of them. So I'm going to go from 3 to infinity. Parentheses on infinity, the 3 is included because I actually can get y equals 3 here. If I put x equals 7 in, I get square root of 0 plus 3 gives me 3. So 3 is one of the solutions for y. For problem 13, it says find the rule, except for part F, and it says simplify. So it's a little more work. But part 13a says f times g. So we just need f, which is 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 10, in parentheses, times g, which is the square root of x squared minus 10. Now I don't need parentheses for the second part. I do for the first. It's not wrong to put them in, so you might get in the habit of putting them in anyway. Part B says g minus f. G is the square root of x squared minus 10. And the minus f, don't simplify, just write it down. I need parentheses, 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 10. Leave it just like that. Part C says w over g. So w is 2 over 3x plus 3, and then I want all of that over g, which is the square root of x squared minus 10. Part D says f of g, so that's the f equation with g put in, which basically is 2 parentheses cubed minus 5 parentheses squared plus 10. And it says to put g in there, so that's the square root of x squared minus 10 and the square root of x squared minus 10. Do not simplify. Leave it just like that. And part E says g of w. G of w is g with w put in. So we have x squared minus 10. G and w goes in where the x was. 2 over 3x plus 3. For the last part, we need to do this in pieces maybe. That's the way I always do it. I need an f of a plus h, which is 2 times a plus h cubed minus 5 times a plus h squared plus 10. Now this one I do need to simplify. It says to simplify, so I'm going to have to expand this out. You should know these two formulas. We put those on the first part. So the a plus h squared and the a plus h cubed formulas are there. So you have 2 times a cubed plus 3a squared h plus 3a h squared plus h cubed. So there's the first part. Minus 5 times a squared plus 2ah plus h squared. And then plus 10. So writing this out further, we have 2a cubed plus 6a squared h plus 6a h squared plus 2h cubed. It's just this simple. Nothing to this. You need to know the formula, and then you're able to just multiply out. Minus 10ah minus 5h squared plus 10 Then we need f of a. So that's f of a plus h, and it says to do f of a plus h minus f of a. So f of a is 2a cubed. And if I write these under where they go, minus 5a squared plus 10, then I can see that I'm going to just scratch these out, really. So we have 2a cubed minus 2a cubed is going to give me 0 here. So these will go away, these will go away, and these will go away. So the last part is to factor in an h and get rid of it. That's what this says. F of a plus h minus f of a. That's what we just did. We have these 5 terms left. If I factor out an h, I'll be left with 6a squared plus 6ah plus 2h squared minus 10a minus 5h. The h's will go away. My answer, I can just circle there. You don't have to rewrite it. For number 14, I need to know how cost, revenue, and profit relate. So first it asks me for the total cost function. So part A. That's c of x, and cost is its fixed cost plus the variable cost. So my fixed cost here is 11.5 plus the variable cost is 0.12345 zeros and a 1, x cubed minus 0.02x squared plus 60x. Now when I ask you for a total cost function, I need to see the c of x, so make sure you're writing that. Part B, it says to give me the profit function. So p of x is actually revenue minus cost. So I've got the revenue function they gave me was negative 0.03x squared plus 140x. I haven't asked you to simplify, so you can simply just put negative and put your cost function. 11.5 plus 0.12345 and a 1, x cubed minus 0.02x squared plus 60x. So there is my profit function. I'll close off that parentheses. Now for the last part, I really just want to put this 3,700 in here. So part C is asking me for the profit at 3,700. So I can go to my calculator to do this part. So I need the profit function, P of x, equals the revenue, which is negative 0.03x squared, plus 140x minus my cost function, which was 11.5 plus 0.123456 x to the third minus 0.02x squared plus 60x. Now you could simplify this, but I don't require it. So if you make mistakes on it, you end up with a mess. So make sure you're not simplifying. You can stretch this out so that you can see the whole thing. And what I really want is P of 3,700. We'll just check that, make sure that's true. 3,700 units. And I can see it's 96,947. So on my paper, I'm going to write this is equal to 96,947. So profit of 3,700 is 96,947. And of course, that's dollars here. $96,947 is the profit. The next problem, I really just want to put 38,000 into the formula. So let's go to the Desmos calculator and do that. So I need the formula. I'll get rid of these two. And the formula says that I need this. I can copy this formula. I'm going to end up with problems in Desmos if I copy it though. See the question marks that show up, and there's a dot here that ended up being a colon. So it's all kinds of problems that show up. 5.2 times, so that's times 10 to the 12th. Shift up, x. And it doesn't like this symbol at all. And then we have x to the negative 1.7. So it might have been faster just to type this one. And I still need this to the so that's the function I have. 5.2 times 10 to the 12 x to the negative 1.7. So it could be a little tricky in Desmos. You could have started from scratch too. So I'm going to put f of x equals, because that gives me the ability to put f of something. And I want f of 38,000. F of 38,000. So that gives me 85,186.589 if I want 3 decimal places. And I do. For the test, I want 3 decimal places. So make sure you put that on there. But you would counter that y is actually the number of families, so it should be a whole number. But again, on the test, I'm going to want 3 decimal places. So make sure you're giving me 3 decimal places, and the correct units would be families.